This is the Jomise K7 Dashcam, a 1600p mid-grade priced dashcam with a ton of features. How does it perform? Well, let's check it out and see. First of all, thank you to Jomise for sending me a sample of this dashcam to test. Normally at this point, I'd have a little link in the video saying if you just want to watch the video samples, skip ahead, but there are a couple very important things I want to point out to anyone who's watching this review. So please watch this entire review if you're considering purchasing this camera. Or if you're in a rush, I guess you can skip to this timestamp in order to see the important bits. The Jomise K7 Dashcam is quite well built. It is bulky, a little bit bigger than a GoPro Hero Session. Remember those old cameras? Jomise's entire design philosophy rests on this touchscreen on the back of the camera. It's the only way to interact with the camera as there are no physical buttons. No power on, no power off. When this camera is plugged in and received power, it's pretty much always recording. The camera is meant to be mounted visibly, not positioned behind your rearview mirror like many dash cams, and therefore the touchscreen is almost always active, either showing a clock, a screensaver, or some of the smart features we're going to talk about a little bit later in this video. This camera, being so bulky, is permanently mounted to a ball joint GPS mount. I guess that's a good thing if this camera is going to be visible, because then it will be harder for people to steal. You'll actually need to unstick the sticker and go about the process that way. The most important thing to note, however, is that setup is done entirely with an app, since there's no buttons to change settings.
Activate your device via app.
You can hear it's talking to me this whole time. Yeah, we get it. But there is no way around using this app to set up the camera. You absolutely have to. The app comes from a company called Hikvision, which is a Chinese security and surveillance company. I don't particularly trust it myself, so I installed it on a burner phone. Basically, you scan the QR code, register the camera, and that's it. You don't need to make an account with this company. Thankfully, once the camera is set up, you do not have to use the app anymore, and you can change some basic settings on the touchscreen. But the fact that you have to use this app to set up, and the app comes from a relatively sketchy source, yeah, that's problematic. I can't say for sure that they're spying on you, but yeah. Anyways, that's the first thing about this camera I wanted you to definitely most 100% know. The second extremely important thing I wanted you to know is about how this camera structures its video files. It's a little bit different than most dash cameras. It seems to pre-fill the memory card with these empty video files and then just sort of add to the files as it goes, meaning that when you turn the camera off and back on, it does not start a new file. Instead, it starts at the end of the previous video where your last file cut off. So often in the middle of a video file, you'll find it blinks from one scene to another where you've turned your car off and back on. This is all well and good, and I guess it's not entirely problematic, except for the fact that when it does this, it corrupts the damn video file. Like, look at this. The file is entirely playable, but it doesn't properly write the duration of the file, so there's no way to skip between parts of the video file, meaning that if you get in an accident and this camera cuts off video, it's going to be a pain in the ass to get the video footage out of the file that you need. In order to show you several of the clips in this video, I actually had to use a screen recorder to capture what was on my screen, instead of using my normal video process, which is using Handbrake to convert the files to something editable by my video editor. Handbrake would see these files, see that their duration is over 2 hours, and then just give me an error. When the camera is set to H.264 mode, it does work a little bit better, but expecting an average user to go in and change that setting, because it is by default set to H.265, it's kinda unrealistic. Which is so unfortunate, because when it comes to video quality, this camera does perform. First of all, good on you, Jomise, for properly advertising this camera. They didn't say that it's a 4K camera and upscale the video just like so many other dashcam makers do. Second of all, video quality is overall quite good when it comes to detail. Found the lighting is a little bit warm at times, meaning that some scenes looked a little bit more reddish and orangish than they actually should have. This is a cold winter day, but it looks like a warm summer sunset. That is until the camera figures out that its color balance is wrong and corrects it back to what I would consider more neutral. Otherwise, those colors are bright and vibrant, very appealing. If I put this dashcam beside a less saturated dashcam such as my Blue Sky C B2K, the winner would obviously be this one just because that video looks so much more visually appealing. Whether that's actually a functional quality of the dashcam, that's up for debate, because increased saturation doesn't necessarily harm the quality of the video, but it also doesn't necessarily make it easier to read things like license plates, street signs, or even in some cases see the color of stoplights. All of those things tend to come from a function of the camera's sharpness and dynamic range. In terms of video sharpness, as I said, there is a good amount of detail. License plates in adjacent lanes will be readable as long as you have good light and are not moving too quickly. License plates one lane over or over a median, I'd say probably not. This is on par with other 1440p cameras, although image sharpness is not exactly helped by the visible compression noise on still frames. What I do find fairly remarkable from this camera, however, is its dynamic range. Generally, more detail is visible in bright sections. So for example, if I'm following a white car on a sunny day, I actually can read its license plate with this camera, whereas other cameras I had mounted in my car struggled. You'll also notice that when I put two video files that should transition seamlessly into each other, there's a half second of this weird, blurry, noisy artifact that I can't seem to get rid of no matter what memory card I use, whether it's a high-speed one or a low-speed one. Even moving frame by frame, it's visible for the first 15 to 20 frames of a video file. To make things even more confusing, sometimes when converting footage this didn't happen. So looking back at the original footage before conversion, I always saw this weird blocky blurriness to it whenever I skipped through the footage. And every file would show it at the beginning of the file, but for some reason when converting clips it didn't always do this, so I honestly don't know if this is a problem with the player or the conversion, but in any case, it's a pain in the butt to work around. They say that using their video player will resolve the 1 second of blurred frames due to the H.265 encryption. And I think maybe there is some truth to that, because the H.264 mode on this camera does not have that issue. However, when I went to install the software that they sent me, my computer set off an antivirus warning, so I did not proceed with testing it. Weirdly, in some cases that garbled half-second of footage kind of looks like old video files that never really got properly overwritten. And to make matters even more confusing, one of my video files actually had audio from a Studio Ghibli movie that was saved to the memory card before using this dashcam. Of course, I had formatted the memory card before using it, both on my computer and in the camera. This basic format done by the camera and the computer doesn't really delete the files, but it tells the camera that it can overwrite all of those files on the memory card. Yet, for some reason, here we are, it's Howl's Moving Castle, mixed in with my dashcam footage. I think this has something to do with the way the camera structures files. It pre-writes empty files to the memory card, then fills them up as it goes. It doesn't break when you turn the car on and off, it just continues the last file. But that's all suspicion, because honestly, I am stumped on this one. Regarding night and low light footage, this camera is on par with some of the best dash cams on the market. Very bright and vibrant, a little bit of noise, but really everything is visible. You can tell the type of cars you're following, you can see the color of traffic lights, and in reality it just makes it all the more disappointing that there's so many other problems with this dash cam. So I want to wrap up this review on a more positive and maybe not so much positive as humorous note. This dashcam also offers a number of smart features such as red light detection and a car in front of you is rolling in traffic detection. That's the closest thing that I can call it, so they really wanted me to emphasize these smart features, so here goes. Honestly, if you're driving and you need to use these features, you should not be driving. I call these features the texting and driving assistants because what they do is basically tell you when the cars in front of you are rolling or when the light goes green. And when driving, the driver should be paying attention to the road, paying attention to the traffic lights and the cars in front of them, and not need a dash cam to tell them what to do.
Keep up with the car.
Look at that, that's a false positive. At best, it's a silly feature with many false positives that you can just turn off. At worst, it could be downright dangerous because it seems to detect when the car's tail lights in front of you turn off, so if the car has just let off of the brakes, and tells you to keep up to the car in front of you. They could be rolling really slow, and if you just give it gas without paying attention, you'll go straight into their bumper. Or, even worse, sometimes it'll tell you green light when there is no green light. Probably one of the first things I turned off when I got this camera. Yeah, it's that bad. Anyways, wow, this was an intensely negative review. Kudos to Jomise for at least trying to fix the problems, but it looks like we could not come to a solution without them doing a full firmware update. Build quality is great, and video quality is overall pretty good. However, I have to say, don't buy this camera. Not until they fix the problem where you need to sign up with the app in order to start the camera. Not until they fix the problem with the video files becoming corrupted due to the way the files are structured. The smart features, you can just turn those off. The most important thing in a dashcam is reliability, and I do not see this camera being highly reliable. If the camera loses power and you lose the last 5 seconds of video, that's not going to be particularly helpful. Or if, for some reason, your accident happens while the camera is transitioning between video files, having those corrupted frames, that half second, will be the vital moment for somebody, that moment that they needed in order to prove that they were not at fault. And this camera just won't deliver it. Thank you for watching. I've left some better alternatives in the video description, and if these problems are eventually addressed by Jomise, I will update in the future. Oh, and I had such high hopes for this one too because it was so well built and premium feeling when I took it out of the box.